Hey guys, welcome back to MixCoach. We are in the middle, or maybe toward the end, of a series called Basics of Mixing, or Mixing Basics. We've talked about filtering, EQ, compression, and today we're going to talk about automation. Now, automation is one of those things that everybody has a different opinion about. I've got my own opinions, and I would like to share that with you today, okay? Before we get going, do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button also, and then hit that little bell and be notified when we do these new videos, okay? It would help me out a lot. It would help, hopefully it will help a lot of other people when they discover this channel, and hopefully they'll find some helpful information here, okay? Okay, so don't forget also, the most important thing here is I've got a workshop called mixcoach.com/workshop, and it is I'm going to share 5 of my best tips on mixing. So check it out. It's completely free. It's about, I think, 40 minutes long, and I think you'll love it. So mixcoach.com/workshop. Don't miss it, okay? Go, there's a link in the description, and you can click it, go straight over there, and we'll hang out some more, okay? All right, so let's talk about automation, all right? Like I said, there's a lot of opinions on automation, and some people I've heard, I've been doing a little bit of research, and a lot of people will tell you to automate everything. Since you can automate everything, automate everything. You can automate EQ. You can automate the Q of the EQ, the frequency, the gain, the filter, which one it is. You can automate compression. You can automate threshold, the knee, everything that we've discussed in the last 2 or 3 videos, you can automate. You can automate faders, you can automate pans, you can do just about anything you want to. But does it mean you need to? No, it doesn't. And in my opinion, you should automate as little as you can. And here's why. Automation is one of those things that, in my opinion, you are thinking from a different side of the brain because you're in the moment, you're mixing, and you've already automated stuff, and you're going, why is it doing that? Why does this keep panning the other way? And you don't realize that you've automated that, either knowingly or unknowingly automated something. And nothing can get you out of the moment of a mix quicker than trying to look for what the heck is going on with my mix, okay? So in my opinion, you should automate as little as possible. But that's not going to keep me from teaching you what automation is, because it's very handy. It's very helpful. And there are times when you do want to automate EQ. You do want to automate a pan. But I'm going to show you easier ways to do that instead of down on the micro level. I'm going to cover that in just a minute, okay? So first of all, let's talk about what automation is. Automation is simply your DAW remembering what you tell it to remember, okay? You can mix along as if it's an analog console with no automation. The faders will move at your will, and they'll just stay where you put them last. Or you can put a fader in an automation mode, which we're going to cover next, and it will remember everything you tell it to do. If you tell it to go to the bottom, if you tell it to go to the top, if you tell it to wiggle and look like a snake on the, you can actually do that. You shouldn't know. Don't do that. You didn't learn that from me, okay? But for right now, let's talk about automation mode. So I've got a song pulled up here, and there are, if I go to the automation, now I'm using ProTools, but most every DAW, it's laid out the same way. You'll find this, and it'll either be off, or read, or touch, latch, or write, and sometimes there's another mode called trim, okay? So let's start at the top. Off is just what it says. It's off. It won't do anything. You can move the faders, and it'll just be dumb. And even if you have automation written on it, it will not play it back because it's off. That's pretty self-explanatory. Read, I usually leave it in read because I don't write automation. And if you haven't written anything, there's nothing for it to read. So I leave it in read a lot of times. Okay, let's start from here. Let's go to the bottom, okay? Let's go to write, because write, if you see right now, it's solid red, which means it is writing. Even though you're not touching it, you're not telling it anything to do, it is writing automation, okay? So when I hit play, it will start writing. You see it is writing automation right now. It turns red, and it's writing automation. Now you'll see these little points where automation has been written. And when you see those, now when I move the fader and then I press play, it's going to jump back up to wherever that mark was. This is a frustrating thing when you're trying to mix quickly, which I advocate, and your faders, you have sweated over the faders where they are, and then you hit play and everything changes back to where it was, and there's no going back. This is why I don't automate a lot, because that can be very frustrating when you've worked so hard on a mix and then it just disappears on you, right? Where the faders are. So I'm going to erase that, and I'm going to show you another automation mode, okay? Now, if you noticed, when I put it into right, there's a preference to do this. When I put it into right and I press play, it is writing automation where it's turning red right there. Now, in the automation or in the preferences, you can make it go to either latch or touch, which we'll cover in just a second. So when I hit stop, notice here, it will go to touch, and it's red. It's written in red, which means you're in touch mode, you are ready to automate, okay? Okay, so I have a session pulled up, and I'm going to show you what automation does. So we're in touch mode now, because now let me explain what touch mode is. Touch mode is a mode to where automation will play back whatever's there, whatever's written on your channel or your lane. It will play back exactly what's there until you touch it. And then when you release the mouse or your finger, if you have a control surface, it will go back to, it'll crossfade back into where it was before you touched it. So let me show you this. So we're in auto or touch, and I'm going to hit play. I'm going to pull this fader down, and if you notice, it is writing what I did, okay? Now, when I play it back, if you notice all those little marks right there, those are where the fader goes at a certain time. So watch this. Now the fader's moving exactly what I did before. Still nothing very earth-shattering there. I'm going to erase this automation now, and I'm going to show you another mode. This mode is called latch. Now what latch does is it's a hybrid between write and touch. It will play back whatever's written in the lane until you touch it, and then when you touch it, it will not stop writing until you hit stop on the transport. So watch this. So we're in latch mode. I'm going to, it's just playing back the automation. Now I'm going to touch it, move it, and I'm going to leave it down here. And now watch what happens. I'm not touching it now, and it's staying where I left it. This is a good mode for if you're mixing in sections, or you're doing chunks of songs, or you just want to leave it and then do this. Now watch. When I hit, I'm going to move this again, and it'll write the automation where it is. Now when I hit stop, it writes back up to where it was. Okay, so now this will do exactly what I wrote, and you'll see the fader jump up wherever we hit stop on the transport. Okay, so we see the modes of automation now, and we see what it can do, and you can see the power in this. It's too much power sometimes because, in my opinion, you should only automate faders, and only the faders that you need to automate. Things like kick drum, snare drum, things that don't move a lot, bass guitar. I don't automate. I don't even put it in automation. I only start automating when I ask the question at the end of my static pass, what would I do if I could automate? It's kind of a trick question. What would I do if I could automate? That will keep you from automating too much. And then it would be something like, well, I would pull the lead vocal up on the first 3 words of the first verse. And then you just do that, right? You just automate that spot. So, but faders are not the only thing that you can automate. You can actually automate plugins too. So let's put one of my favorite plugins, the SSL channel. Okay, I'm going to hold Control, Option, and Command down at the same time, and this will give me the option of automating whatever I want. Okay, you don't have to go and figure it out in the menu. If I just wanted to do this fader, you hit Control, Option, Command on a Mac, and you touch this fader, and it will say Enable Automation for Gain. If I click that, you see it has a color around it now, which means that it is automatable, okay? And then what you'll also notice is that now we've got a new lane here where we just had playlist, waveform, volume. Now we can go to the channel here and hit gain, and that automates this gain, okay? So now, if you notice here, we're automating this channel. So check this out. It should jump down and it should jump back up, when we get done here. So why would you automate that? You wouldn't. You wouldn't necessarily automate that. So I'm going to delete this for now, and I'm going to do something that I may automate on this, and maybe a filter. Maybe you want a verse vocal to sound very thin and kind of AM radio-ish. You may want to automate this. I'm holding I call it the fat finger because it's 3 fingers on the leftmost 3 beside the space bar on your computer. And this will allow you to not have to automate everything, just automate the parameters that you need to automate, okay? So let's just say you wanted to automate the filter. You just do the same thing, fat finger, filter, and it would say enable automation, okay? That's not necessarily the best way to do it, but you may want to do that. So now that you know that you can automate faders and you can automate plugins too, I want to introduce a concept that I may have made up, I'm not sure, called micro automation and macro automation. Micro is the smallest, macro meaning large brushstrokes. You can, let's just say that you wanted the whole mix to be mono. And there are several ways to do this. You could go and you could automate each one of these pan pots to your heart's content. And it would be a lot of work. And chances are, on the first 2 or 3 tries, you wouldn't get everything right, okay? So that's micro automation. You can do that. You shouldn't do that, though. In my opinion, if you wanted to do something like that, you could put an insert on the master fader. Let's create a master fader real quick. So here's what I would do. If you want to do, let's just say you wanted to make everything mono for a section and then stereo it out. Let's just say you wanted to do mono on the verses and stereo on the choruses. So let's open up a plugin called the S1 Imager. It's one of my favorite plugins for doing this sort of thing. When I want to reference a mix in mono or widen a keyboard pad out, I'll use this here. So let's just say that we're going to tighten the width to here, and we want to automate that, right? Now you could automate this, or you could just bypass this. So if you hit the fat finger bypass, you can enable automation for that, and then take a look, and then here's the master bypass. So let's just bypass it for now. If you notice the lane changed to what the fader is, right? So let's just say in this section right here, we wanted it to go, it's bypassed now. So let's just say in this section, we want it to be stereo. So right now it's bypassed. Your master fader doesn't know what's there. And then when you hit play on this chorus, it unbypasses, and then you get a narrow image. And then when you get to the end here, it goes back. You bypassed, and now you're wide again. This is very helpful for if you wanted to do this, or if you wanted to filter a vocal and you wanted the vocal to sound very thin in AM radio, you could just put an SSL on it, filter it, bypass the SSL, and then automate when it comes open again, okay? So that's just like a macro large stroke. It's one automation thing instead of hundreds. So let's talk about a throw delay. A throw delay is when you want to delay one word and you want to make it repeat, into oblivion, or for just a couple of passes. You can automate the sends of a channel. Let's just create a send here, and we'll say this, and you can automate this. Now, let me do this before we get into too much automation. In Pro Tools, there's a way to pull it up, and it's Command 4, and it will pull this up. You can suspend the automation, you can write enable the plugin, and that's everything on the plugin. So if you forget that you're automating and you're in touch mode or latch mode, guess what? You may as well erase that plugin, because you're going to have so much automation written on it that you're not going to know what to do with it. You may as well just save the preset, delete the plugin, and reinstantiate it again, because you don't want to hit this one, because it will automate everything on the plugin. Now, there are occasions when you might want to do that, so now you know. This is all I ever have. A lot of times when you open Pro Tools, it will have everything ready to automate. That is a dangerous move in my opinion. So I turn everything but volume off because I'm pretty sure I'm going to automate volume on some of the channels, but most everything else, send volume, send pan, send mute, I'm probably not going to mute unless it's this instance. So I'm going to do the mute, okay? Now this send mute right here on this, we are going to, let's just say this is going to a delay unit, and that delay unit is set to do 3 repeats, and we want to leave this off until it's time to do that. So the most accurate way to do this is to do here where the send is at the bottom, just go to mute and then unmute it at the right time. So now it's not muted, and now when you've got this word, you go to the word and it will open up the send to the reverb unit, and then when it comes time, it will close it back again. Again, not my favorite way to do it. My favorite way to do it is to duplicate the track without the audio on it. And now you've got a duplicate, let me erase this automation here. Now you've got a duplicate track that you can take. Let's just say, let me go here where there may be a word here. Okay, so let's just say you want to automate this last word to have a delay on it. Well, the easier way to do this is to put this delay on this channel. Let's just say we want to do the Super Tap 2. And now there's a delay on there and you've got it set up exactly the way you want it, but there's nothing on this channel yet. There's nothing on this track until you take this track, you copy what you need, and you bring it down, bring a copy of it down. You bring a copy of it down by hitting Option. Now you've got this word that's going to the delay, and the delay will play, and it'll be very dependable. Let's just say you wanted to filter that word. You can do that. You don't have to automate everything. Anyway, so I think this is a better way to do it. So we did a little automation on the master fader by taking it wide and make it narrow and automate it wide again. That's not limited to just the master fader. You can do that to the drum bus. You can do that to the guitar bus, the vocal bus, the background vocal bus. And as a matter of fact, the more buses that you use, the more opportunities you have to properly automate something on the macro level, okay? So I advocate mixing with buses. That leaves you a lot of opportunities to do things like, you know, bring down the drums in the verse and then up on the chorus. You don't want to automate every channel of the drums because it just doesn't sound as good. It's a lot of work for just a little return. This is a little work for a lot of return. So try it this way. So I was talking to a student earlier today, and they were talking about a bass guitar that was kind of going up and down, and he automated the bass guitar. And then he ended up not liking the automation on the bass guitar, and it was noticeable that he probably shouldn't have automated it. So the thing I mentioned to him, and I'll mention to you too, is you remember when we were talking about the static mix and getting the mix right? To me, that's the best time to do automation that's not automation. A lot of times you want to take, let's just say that you wanted this word, where you would normally grab a fader and automate this word. Why not just go ahead and clip gain it up to where it's hitting the compressor the way it should? If you're going to automate it anyway, you can automate it here and you never have to touch it again. I have a shortcut on mine, and I created this shortcut, but you can actually take the clip gain and you can actually turn the clip gain up here. Right? So now that word is completely automated and you never have to touch that again. It's kind of like pre-automation, but the only difference is it happens before the compressor. It happens before the delay. So now you don't have to automate in 2 places. So I mentioned that I had this. I've got a shortcut where I hold shift control and the up arrow. That may not work for you. It works for me because I've programmed it that way. But you can definitely take the clip gain line here and turn it up. And you can even shape the clip gain line by doing this sort of thing. So instead of automating the faders, why not do clip gain? It's pre-automation, and I guess it could be considered automation, but the benefit is when you flatten these tracks out and you send it to the next person, it's exactly the way you wanted it to be. The volume of everything. If you've got an S that's too loud on the vocal, why automate a de-esser? Or pull the fader down? Why not just take the clip gain and pull that down? I think everybody will benefit. You're benefiting everybody that comes after you if you do it that way. Oh, let me tell you about one more trick that I learned from one of my MixCoach members. This is a trick where this is a mode we haven't mentioned yet, but it is a mode that happens in a lot of DAWs naturally, but ProTools, Avid, makes you pay for it. And it's called trim automation. And trim automation is, let's just pretend that you have done meticulous automation on the vocal and you've got the attacks, you've ridden the vocals and you've got the attacks of the words, the syllables. You can hear everything just fine, except for you wish the vocal was just a little louder. So what do? You can grab the fader and pull it up, and you can definitely do that. His trick was this, and it's really cool. Create a VCA and automate the VCA. So what we're going to do is create a group, and we're going to call it Sopranos. So I'm going to hit Command-G. That's going to create a group, and I'm going to call it Sopranos. And that includes the 4 soprano mics, okay? Now we're going to take the soprano VCA and assign it to the sopranos. Now, what you can do is you can actually ride these faders. Let's just say every one of these faders is ridden meticulously. And now, instead of messing with the volume of each individual one, now you just want to take the whole soprano section up. Well, now you can automate this VCA. Now this VCA will turn them all up, and they will be moving individually. You won't mess up the automation that you've already written on the channel. And you can do this as many times as you want to. So that's a little trick that I learned from one of my members on MixCoach Member. So anyway, that is automation in a nutshell. Just the big bullet points is, just because you can automate something doesn't mean you should. And if you do automate stuff, you've got to be really careful, and really less is more when it comes to automation, because there's nothing worse than being distracted from a mix by trying to figure out what's going on to your mix because you accidentally or intentionally automated something that you shouldn't have, okay? So automation, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button, the bell, and don't forget that there is some training waiting for you at mixcoach.com/workshop. Okay? I will see you next time. Thanks for coming. Bye.